Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm going to give my thoughts on the Switch 2, if anybody cares. I haven't done a video game video in a while, and I kind of wanted to, and I think that this is a good opportunity. So let's see, it's the 7th, and I believe on the 2nd was when they showed off the Switch 2. And I think it's coming out on June 5th, so it's very close. So that's kind of exciting. It's always exciting when a new console gets shown off, and it's close. I haven't really been a big Nintendo fan for the past couple years. Most of the Switch's life cycle, I've started to really not be a big fan of them anymore. There's definitely cool things that look interesting to me. So I'll talk about that stuff first, the stuff I think looks neat, and then I'll get into the negatives. I have a list here. So first off, Mario Kart World, obviously, right? Like I think we all pretty much assumed that that was going to be a launch title, and how could it not? The last Mario game came out 11 years ago. It's a long time for a new Mario Kart. Um, the DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the Booster Course Pass was terrible. Most of those courses were awful. There were some good ones in there, but they were just, they're crappy courses. So I think we're all excited. I think it looks great. If it's just as good as Mario Kart 8 or 8 Deluxe, whatever, then I think it'll be a home run. I mean, it could be a piece of shit and it will still sell really, really well too, right? But based on everything that I've seen, and I watched the extended gameplay section they did on the Treehouse. I didn't want to spoil too much of the game, but it really does look great. I like the driving to the other courses thing. I think it looks interesting. I don't know how useful the idea of driving off road in a free roam is, but I could see that becoming useful for online play. And I could see the competitive nature of Mario Kart. I think the online play could be even better than it was for 8, just from that alone, or people speed running the game, all the different ways they can take on the course and everything. So yeah, I mean, it looks good. It doesn't look like visually spectacular, but that's to be expected with Nintendo. But yeah, it definitely looks pretty sharp and it looks like a fun game. Donkey Kong Bonanza, that was a huge surprise. I'm a humongous Donkey Kong fan. I love the series. I'm one of those people that actually loves DK64. It's one of my favorite games. Yes, it's a very frustrating game, but I love it. And so to have another 3D Donkey Kong game is great. Um, I'm not super thrilled with the way it looks because it really does look like it is designed by the Mario Odyssey team. And I am not a fan of Mario Odyssey at all. I really actively dislike that game. So seeing a similar UI and a similar sort of look is a little worrisome for me. Although of course it's different. There's the destruction of the world and everything, so it could be interesting. Um, but I'm just being cautiously optimistic with that one because a lot of times when consoles come out, they show off a game as the big launch title thing, and it gets everyone excited. But then it's not that great, and people kind of forget about it. I don't think that's going to happen with Mario Kart World, but that could be a thing with Donkey Kong. I'm not. In also, Nintendo being weird as they usually are, will not say who's making the game. What? They won't say who's making it. They said, "Oh, if you want to know who's making it, you can buy the game and read it in the credits." It's like, come on, just tell us who's making it. It's probably the Odyssey team, but I mean, it looks interesting though. Some third-party games looked interesting. Some ports and stuff like that. Some things are cool. The Duskblood thing that was like a huge surprise. It looked almost for a second like it was going to be Bloodborne 2, which does look very similar to Bloodborne, right? I think if it was straight up Bloodborne 2, a lot of people would lose their minds. That would have been crazy. But I mean, it looks interesting. I'm a Dark Souls fan. I've played every game. Um, uh, when I saw that it's an online game, I believe online only, that killed my excitement for it. I don't like that shit. That's not for me. Like the Elden Ring Night Rain is coming out, and that's an online style thing, and that's just not my thing. I mean, I think there are people that'll be really excited about it and like playing it, people that are more into that thing. But when I saw it was online, no thanks. I would rather just play an offline Dark Souls style game. So it looks interesting. One that I don't think anyone's talking about, or I have not heard anybody talk about, is I think it's called Fast Fusion. If you've ever played the Fast games, I think were on the Wii U, and there's a game called Fast RMX, which is on the Switch. I don't really hear people talk about these games. They're great. If you like F Zero, and you're like me, where you're just baffled by the fact that Nintendo has not made another F Zero game, Fast RMX is just fine. It's a great fast racing game in the style of F Zero. It doesn't quite have the charm that that game series does, but it's a fantastic Switch game. It looks great. It runs rock solid 60 FPS. It's like $20. So if you want something like that, pick it up. I saw Fast Fusion, if that's the correct name. I'm pretty sure it was. It was so quick, you know. And this is a game that I never thought would get a sequel. You know, I just didn't think it's that big of a seller or that many people know about it. So to see that that's going to be that there's going to be a new one is really cool because those games are awesome and very very underrated. And just a few other things like they showed off like a split second thing of Silk Song, which was like so bizarre that they did that. Yeah, so and then we get on. We have GameCube games. I mean that's cool, but long overdue. Maybe you know the Switch couldn't handle it. That probably is the case. I think that's cool. Just I they don't have Nintendo doesn't have a good track record with emulators, and you know they did fix things to be fair, but the N64 games were like the worst emulated way to play N64 games when they first came out. So I hope that's not the case with the GameCube games. A good selection of games. Interesting that they have the original, of course, because it's a GameCube game, but the original Wind Waker and not the HD version, which I think the HD version is good, but I kind of prefer the original, maybe for nostalgic purposes. But yeah, I think Soul Calibur 2 is in there. That's a great game. I used to play that all the time. F Zero GX is in there. Pokemon XD and Coliseum, those are awesome games. So a good, you know, little thing of games. I'm sure they'll drip feed games like they always do, and it will piss people off. And I suspect that they will increase the price of the online to compensate for that. I don't think it's going to be at the same price point as the N64. I think Nintendo's too greedy. Also, like 120 FPS, 1080p screen, up to can do 4K, 60 FPS. Really interesting. I think that's a lot of marketing bullshit. I've seen this kind of thing before, and keep in mind we're still in the positives. Just I have an Xbox Series S. You know, when they tell you it can do 1440p, 120 FPS, that's not happening. You know, it has to be done by the developer. And frankly, like I would say, the majority of games don't take advantage of the power that the console has. We're talking about the Series S. So while there are some great games like what is it? Psychonauts 2 runs at 1440p, 60 FPS, looks fantastic, super smooth. Um, that's an anomaly. There really aren't a ton of games, and I've owned this console for a number of years. You'd be surprised by how many games you would expect to take advantage of the power of this console and don't. So it's a per developer basis, and that's the same thing I think we're going to see here. I think, of course, the Nintendo first party titles are going to look and run great, as they generally do. To give Nintendo credit there, they always definitely are pretty technically sound, though that they're getting away from that recently, you know, like games with frame rate issues and stuff. But yeah, I don't think like Mario Kart will run poorly. I don't think Metroid Prime will run poorly. But yeah, a lot of that is just, I feel like a way to get people really excited seeing those high numbers, but you should be cautiously optimistic. I don't think most things are going to run and hit those targets. The Pro Controller 2 looks great. I love the Pro Controller. I don't like the D-pad, but that's my only problem with it. Hopefully they fix the D-pad. They probably won't. It'll probably be the same weird stiff D-pad. They have the buttons on the back. That's cool. The mouse control thing looks interesting. My only concerns for that is using it on your leg. Nintendo says you can, but just because they say it doesn't mean it's true and that it works well. Obviously, that's how most people are going to want to do it. Also worry about rubbing the magnet thing over and over again over time and wearing down. But I love that idea. I think that's really cool. Seeing people play Metroid Prime, whatever the new one is called, Metroid Prime 4. I don't know, but that looked cool. And then using magnets on the Joy Cons. I think that's smart and great because the system that they have on the Switch is completely failed and doesn't function as intended. So well, hopefully that works out the way that they're. I'm sure it works fine. So that's cool. Let's get into the cons, and really some of that stuff really does look exciting. Not to be too negative, but really the price is the prices, and everyone's talking about this. Most people are fine with the console price, and it's the game price that they're worried about. Frankly, and I'm just being frank, I think that the console is overpriced. It is Nintendo. That's what they do now. You pay a premium. They're like the Apple of video games. Um, they give you something that came out years ago, and they charge you more for it because it's flashy and it has Mario and Zelda. I thought that it was going to be 400. That seemed like a fair price. 450 is what they're going for. Um, so that's a little too overpriced for me. And frankly, I know that it is a tablet. So maybe for a gaming tablet, that's not too much, but it's like that's the same price as a PS5 digital edition. It's overpriced, just straight up. It's aging hardware already, and yeah, graphics aren't everything, but it's not just graphics; it's resolution, which is very, very important, and frame rate. And like, yes, getting back to they said 120 FPS, 4K. Those are targets. So I'm worried about the performance over the long term again. And are we just going to get into the same issue that we had? I just think the consoles in general just overpriced. I think 450 is ridiculous. I think $80 for a game is just insane. It makes sense. Like they, starved us for Mario Kart for years and gave us a shitty DLC to tide us over. And then here you go. Here's the Mario Kart you wanted, and it's $80. That's crazy. I would never pay $80 for a game. And frankly, I don't think Mario Kart is worth $80. I'm sure it's going to be great. It's not worth 80. The problem, and this is obvious, but and as other people were saying, the problem with doing something like that is other developers are just going to raise their prices as well. It's 100% going to happen. If Nintendo is charging $80, other developers and consoles will start charging 80. That's going to become the new normal. They're going to use that $80 price point as a gauge. Then I'm sure they're going to sell a shitload of copies. So I would suspect that within a year or two, let's say 2 years, they're going to raise it to 90. And they're just going to keep raising it and pushing it. So yeah. The other features I wasn't excited about were the chat features, the video camera that looks like terrible quality. They basically added Discord and they acted like they invented voice chat, even though it was on like my Xbox. Back in like 2005. I'm not interested in that. And I think it's kind of, though smart, but kind of scummy, the fact that they have this new C button, that they've paywalled, as people have said, a button. But yeah, you're going to press that C button, and I know what's going to happen. I mean, I don't think they showed this, but that when you press that, a pop-up ad is going to pop up, and it's going to show you, oh, you need to subscribe to Nintendo Online, and it's basically putting an ad on a button. So I'm not terribly excited about that. And I don't know anyone. I mean, maybe people will use it, kids and stuff, but I don't know anyone that would ever use that. Everyone's just going to use Discord or call each other on the phone or something. So yeah, the game prices are outrageous. I think 70 is too much money for games anyways. Granted, we did pay more back then. I do remember paying a lot for N64 games, but games were more of a niche industry then. They weren't as commercialized as they are now. Games are just frankly too inflated with their budgets. It's kind of similar to film now in Hollywood. And other than that, I just don't think most games are worth that price point, even if that they're trying to change it with the times and raise the price. Like most games just aren't worth the price point. Do you think the new Call of Duty or the new whatever is worth $70? No. Most games are like fucking broken when they come out anyways. So it just feels like a lot of nickel and diming. I think it's ridiculously overpriced overall. Their communication was terrible as usual. The fact that they didn't announce the price, which they didn't want to, freak people out at the end of the direct, but then you had to go to their website and there was all this, you had to scroll down and there was all this confusion. And I think recently Doug Bowser did come out and say something, but it seems like they're just like a chicken with their head cut off running around. It just seems like a mess. Par for the course with Nintendo. My last thing that's a huge, huge issue, and before I go on the LCD screen, not having an OLED, I figured they were going to do that. That was my thought. Of course, have it come out with an LCD screen, and then a couple years later they can put out an OLED version and charge you more for it. It'll be $500 or whatever. And that is one more point before I get to my last point. I think it makes perfect sense again, but it was Pete Dorr who said this in his video. As he said, this is not a $450 console, it's a $500 console. While Mario Kart World is not the only launch title, to my knowledge, it's the only first-party launch title. We're not counting that weird tech demo thing that they're hilariously charging you for. That's nonsense. So it's like everyone's going to buy the bundle because why wouldn't you? So it's really a $500 console, which again is like this price of a PlayStation 5. And that's a limited time while supplies last bundle, by the way. And you know pre-orders are going to be nuts, and this thing's going to be sold out. But yeah, my last issue, and this is another thing I did predict, no Hall effect joysticks. They announced that not on the second, but they have announced that that's really bad. It does kind of make sense. I'm not really sure of the technical specifications, but I do think that Hall effect joysticks do use magnetic sensors. I have a couple controllers with them. They're not the most accurate controllers, but they don't really wear out in the same way that other controllers can drift. And we all know how annoying drift is, particularly with Nintendo. So yeah, there was some talk about, well, they couldn't do it because of the magnet system. I don't know, but I suspect there's going to be drift issues. I've seen people say, like, no way, man, it's not going to be drift. I think there's going to be drift. And if there is, that's just an absolute joke. I also saw some people almost kind of defending it, like, well, at least Nintendo's really good about repairing them. And to that I would say, would you rather buy a refrigerator that works when you buy it because you bought it? Or would you buy a refrigerator that works but breaks every month, but they send someone out for free to fix it? I would rather it just work, So anyways, not to be too negative, although I'm not particularly positive on this, though I haven't really been with Nintendo. But it is still fun to get excited, and the Mario Kart looks great. Like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic about Donkey Kong, but it still looks cool. And just other stuff, it looks neat, and we'll see what happens when it comes out. Tons of people are going to buy this thing; it'll be sold out. It's the pre-orders are going to be nuts. So we'll see like what this thing can do and what it's like. The only other thing that is kind of shitty is that they're charging for upgrades for games. And I guess PlayStation does that as well. I don't think Xbox does though. All my games from my Xbox One, when I brought them over to my console, just work. They just are upgraded. So it's a $10 upgrade as far as I know that has been announced. So it's not too bad, but I think it should be free. And the thing that they're doing is kind of crappy with, again, getting back to the nickel and diming thing, trying to make as much money as humanly possible. When you buy these, like, let's say you don't have Tears of the Kingdom, and you're like, well, I have a Switch 2. I just want to buy Tears of the Kingdom, the Switch 2 version. You're buying a Switch 1 cartridge with a download code for the Switch 2 version. And they've done that so that you can't resell it and that you can't lend it out to your friend. You might be able to lend it out with this weird virtual game card thing, but I think that's only for people on your family pack or whatever. But it just seems like anti-consumer bullshit. So anyways, that's my thoughts. If you're excited, let me know. That's cool too. I'm sure a lot of people are very, very excited. And if you also think that some of this stuff is nonsense, let me know. It'd be interesting what your thoughts are, and let me know if you think you're going to pick it up or if any of these games sounded cool. And yeah, peace out. I'll see you next time, maybe with another video game video or a book video or who knows. See you later.